The Pen and the Inkwell
What is the inkwell, Mama?
by Hans Christian Andersen.
What is it?
That's a lovely question, Daniel. Can we read to find out?
An inkwell is a pot which is with ink, Daniel.
Yes, it certainly is, said the Inkwell. It is beyond all understanding, as I always say. He boasted to the quill pen and everyone else who could hear him on the desk. It's amazing all the things that come out of me. Indeed, it is almost unbelievable. And I honestly don't really know what will come next when the man begins drawing ink from me. One dip into me is enough to fill half a page of paper. Just think of all the things which can be written on that. Look at the illustration and tell me what is an inkwell. Can you tell me a synonym for inkwell? It is an ink pot. I am really most extraordinary. All the great works of poets and writers, they all come from me. All those exciting characters people read about and think really exist. So this is the story about a talking ink pot. Yes? And this is a quill and this is an ink pen. Yes, David, you were saying something? You're right there, the quill pen jeered. You don't do anything at all, because if you did, you would understand that you are just an ink provider. You only supply the ink. So I can think out and then make visible upon paper what I have in me.
Mama,
And that's what I write down. Yes?
Mama, so the inkwell and the pen are fighting that I am the greater. I am the
Yes,
greater one.
I think it's going on those lines.
Because I read this, Mama.
It is lovely. It is the pen that does the actual writing. There's no one that doubts that. And anyway, most...
And Mama, I want to talk. Does a pink have this? Does a pencil, does a quill have a different color?
Yes. Yes, it depends on whose feather the quill comes
Mama,
from.
in the Swan Princess, one of Elsa's brother appeared and he threw one white feather.
Yes. So if the feather comes from a swan, the quill is white. If the feather comes from a pigeon, the quill is black. Like how we have found sometimes on the road. Crow. Very good, Daniel. Okay, so it is the pen that does the actual writing. There's no one that doubts that. And anyway, most people have just as much an understanding of poetry as an old inkwell. Can we continue?
Yes, Mama.
What would you know about that? You have hardly any experience, said the inkwell. After all, you haven't worked here a week yet, and you're already half worn out. And you imagine that you're the real poet? You just do what you are told to do. I have seen the likes of you before you came, both from the goose family and British maid too. So the inkpot is telling him, I have seen your type of quills, both from the goose family. What does he mean? Means quills which come from feathers of the goose, and British made too, which are artificially made. I know all about both quills and steel pens. They have been here in my employment, and I'll have even more. When the man who writes with me, comes and puts down what he takes out of my inside, I would love to know what the first thing he takes out of me will be. Dumb inkpot, said the pen. Uh-oh. I think it's going to get...
I told you, no, Mama. Both of them will fight. I'm the greater.
Yes,
I'm the greater.
yes.
I'm the greater.
Both of them are taking credit of what the writer writes. The inkwell is saying, from me, from the ink that is in me, all these beautiful words that these children all over the world read come. And the quill says, from you only the ink comes, but from me...
You're only the ink supplier.
You're only the ink supplier. From me the designs come. Late in the evening, the poet came home after having been to a concert. He had heard
Mama,
an excellent...
can I tell you something? He had heard an excellent violin, and he had come to write a poem to, and it was very nice. Nobody remembered the person who was guiding him, but he only remembered it.
Oh, really? You are a word
Yes.
creator, David. A violin. Have you heard of a violin? Have you heard of a violinist?
No, I heard of a violinist.
A violinist. So I think.
My dad's brother is a violinist.
Oh, your dad's brother is a violinist. Okay. So.
He told to me if I play the violin and so I'm a good violinist, all the ghosts will come from the cemetery.
Oh, is it? Okay. So can we continue?
Yes, Mama.
So late in the evening, the poet came home after having been to a concert. He had heard an excellent violinist and could think of nothing else but this musician's amazing performance. It was really lovely. The violinist had produced a surprising richness of tones from the instrument. At times it had sounded like a shower of twinkling raindrops, one precious pearl falling upon the other. Ting 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 ting. Then it was like birds twittering merrily together.
Mama,
Yes?
can I tell you something? And also, the bow and this were not fighting.
Oh, is
Only
it?
the ink
Inkpot and the inkwell. Inkwell and the quill.
quill.
Yes. I would like to say something about the musician. He was a versatile musician. He was a versatile. Versatile means different types. He could produce different types of
Music.
Excellent, Daniel. Music. To the audience, it had seemed that the very violin strings had vibrated with music. Not only that, every single part of the instrument, including the screws and the joints, had seemed to be a part of the music. It was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. It was a difficult piece to perform. But the violinist made it look like child's play. David, this is important for you. Do you play difficult pieces on the piano?
No.
Some?
I played put just
Yes,
now.
but you play difficult pieces and now they seem very easy. The bow had merely glided back and forth over the strings. You would have thought that anyone at all could do the same had they tried. The violin and the bow took on lives of their own. The two became one, playing independently of their performer. The audience forgot the master who guided them,
I told you.
breathed into them life and soul. They forgot the master, but the poet remembered him,
I told you.
mentioned him, and wrote down his own thoughts like this. So now this is what Hans Christian Andersen is going to write about the violinist. The violinist played so well, so well, so well that people could only hear the music and see the violin and the bow. Yes, he wasn't clumsy, he wasn't nervous, he wasn't self-conscious. The audience just forgot about him. The music was like overwhelmingly splendid. So this author of ours, Hans comes home and writes, how foolish it would be if the bow and the violin should brag about their performance. And yet this is just what we people do so often. The poet, the artist, the scientist, the general, we boast of our achievements. And yet we are nothing but instruments on which our Lord is making music. To him alone be the honor. We have nothing to boast of. There is a Catholic hymn which reverberates the same sentiments. Can anyone tell me what that hymn is?
एक कहानी एक तू.
Not Ekavani Ektu, honey. Make me an instrument.
Make me an instrument.
Okay, so yes, so there is a wait, David. Can you read it again for us, David?
How foolish it would be if the bow and the violin would brag about their performance, and yet this is just what we people do so often. the poet, the artist, the scientist, and general. We boast of our achievements, and yet we are nothing but instruments on which our Lord is making music. To Him alone be the honor. We have nothing to boast of. Indeed, this was what the poet wrote down. He composed it as the
Parable
parable
and called it the master and the instruments.
But I'm feeling
Indeed.
hot when I'm crossing my leg.
Indeed, this was what the poet wrote down. He composed it as a parable and called it the master and the instrument. So, what do we understand from this? Hans is saying the violin and the bow are saying we are the ones together who have produced such beautiful music. But what does Hans say? They are nothing, just like us. We and the violin and the bow are but instruments. And who is making the music? The Lord.
Lord.
Who is making the music, Dano?
Lord.
The Lord. To Him alone be the honor. We have nothing to boast of. So if the master doesn't touch the violin and the bow, does music come out of it?
No.
If the Lord doesn't touch us, can anything good come out of us?
No.
No.
If the Lord touches us, melodies come out.
Correct. If the Lord touches us, stories come out. Now see, if the Lord doesn't touch us, we are just there. But if the Lord touches us, music comes out, stories come out. That I'll teach you. The pen sneered to the inkwell when they were both alone again. Didn't you hear him read what I wrote? Yes, you mean what I gave him to write? The inkwell corrected. That will keep you from being so proud. Can't you see you are being made a fool of? That was a cut at you from within me. I should know when I'm being sarcastic. Stupid ink container, said the pen. Useless writing stick, said the inkwell. So, what did the pen say to the inkwell? Stupid ink container. The pen said to the inkwell, stupid ink container. And what did the inkwell say to the pen? Useless writing stick. So, can you tell me, give me one word for the feelings between the sentiments between them? Okay, I'll give you 4 options. Happiness, jealousy.
Jealousy.
Excellent, Dano. Before the 4 options, you have hit the nail on the head. And both of them felt sure they had answered well. It is a pleasant feeling knowing one has given a good answer. One can go to bed and sleep well. And that is exactly what they did. Can you see them sleeping here so nicely? Yes? But the poet did not sleep. Thoughts kept emerging from his mind like the tones from the violin, dropping like pearls, rushing out like the storm through the forest. He could see his own heart in these thoughts. He could see a glimmer of light from the eternal Master. To Him alone be the honor. The end.
Now I want
So
me dancer.
let us summarize the story in a nutshell. The inkwell thought he has to get the honor for all the words that the poet writes.
Because all the things are inside him and
Yes.
it comes out, and then only the ink.
The writing stick thought he should get the honor because from the ink that comes out of him only the writer can get words. Yes. The violin and the bow, both of them, they thought that when they were a great combination and they created all the music. But to whom should be the honor? To him alone be the honor. So Hans Christian Andersen was a very, very pious man.
Pious
Okay?
means?
Pious means God-fearing. Okay, he loved the Lord. Most of Andersen's stories have that happy ending, which is very fit for real fairy tales. But a few of his fairy tales do not end happily. Why? Do you know why, David? Dano, do you know why few of Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales don't end happily? Because Andersen relates experiences from his own life which was not particularly happy. Sometimes one wonders how could this poet who had a very hard life go on to produce 150 illuminating stories. Maybe the reason was his faith in a benevolent God, like he says in one of his tales. In every human life, small or great, there is an invisible thread that reminds us we belong to God.
Mama, how did it become green also?
Who said this? In every human life, repeat after me.
In every human life,
Small or great,
small or great,
there is an invisible thread
there's an invisible thread
that reminds us we
us
belong to God.
we belong to God.
Maybe it was this invisible thread that held him and pulled him through his own painful circumstances. So he can now connect us to a broader heavenly fabric.
Fabric,
What?
fabric roller.
Oh, Danu.
What?